Hi, I'm Rebecca, this is the KFO Knitting Podcast and welcome back for part 2 of everything I knit in 2022. Hi, my name's Rebecca, I am a knitter based in Edinburgh and this is my second part of my video reviewing all of the sweaters and the garments that I made in 2022. There were 22 sweaters in total and the first half of those are in last week's video and I'll pop a link somewhere on screen to that part if you've not seen it. But the video was so long that I split it into 2 parts and this is the second half. I feel like the first half were a lot of things that, like a couple of wins, but mostly things I'm not really wearing, interestingly. The second half of the year I have definitely got a lot more wins. There are a couple of summer garments in there and then a couple of sweaters which I absolutely love. So I'm excited to be sharing my second half of the year. Some information just that's handy to know is all of the pattern names and the yarn I used are down in the description box below. I don't have a Ravelry page for most of these because I'm just not great at keeping up to it, but I've shared lots of information in the podcast in the past about each sweater, and if you have any questions feel free to drop me a message or an email and I can share more details if I can remember them. The other thing that's handy to know is that I have a bust size of 107 centimetres. I'm usually like a UK 14 to 16 and I'm not particularly busty, and I think that's probably helpful when you see some of the garments on to know how they might fit you based on my measurement. And for every pattern I'll tell you, for the most part, I think the ease or like the size of the finished bust of the sweater or the top, because the second part has some summer tops. I think that's everything I had to share. Oh, a couple of the videos towards the end have like a sunspot on them where the sun started catching my camera lens. I've decided not to refilm them because it's still, you can still see the sweater, but just apologies in advance. It's not particularly annoying and it's off to the side of the screen, but just, yeah, there's a bit of a little sun orb watching over me as I finish up the last few sweaters. Thank you so much for your comments on the last episode. I really loved hearing about them. There were some amazing tips about how to work with some of the ones that don't fit me so well or that I don't wear very often, and I've already started putting some of those into action. So I hope you enjoy this video and I'll see you next week for some regularly scheduled podcasting. Okay, we have one more winter pattern left and then we're moving swiftly into our summer knits. And I can't believe I knit this sweater in whenever it was, like March or June or something, because it's this huge big fluffy monster. So this sweater is, okay, this is the Sunday sweater by Petite, which has this kind of like round yoke with these pearl sort of, yeah, it's one of our early sweaters. It only goes up to a 3XL. I wouldn't knit it again. I think it's not a great sweater, but I think it was one of our early designs, and so there are things missing, like this pattern has no short rows, so it's kind of a bit blech. And the picture on the pattern is her looking like very chic in a cafe with like a beige version of this, and I look like a grey snowball. My boyfriend calls it my pumpkin sweater because of the lines make me look like a pumpkin. But I wear this quite a lot. It is knit with Drops Melody held double, which is a bit of a nightmare yarn. I bought it for something else and I can't think what. And I struggled, maybe a cardigan, and I struggled to knit it because it's so fluffy that you can't see the core of the yarn. So I knew when I wanted to knit this, I wanted a round yoke or like a Raglan sweater with very little, like no picking up, no seaming, nothing like that, so that I could just knit this, knit until it was done, because it was a nightmare to work with. It is huge. It is 100 and, what did I think it was? What was it? It was 56, no, it can't be that, it must be 66. So that is 132 centimetres. So it's pretty big. The sleeves are also just huge, and I don't think this is a remotely flattering. This looks good, it's baggy, it looks a bit funny. That being said, I wear it all the time. It's really warm, and I find this is something I wear at home when I want to just be cozy and like cuddle up. I also wear this over other jumpers if I'm really cold. It's been a cold winter here so far for UK standards, and so I found myself like last week putting this on over another sweater. I wanted this yarn so desperately out of stash that I knit this, but I don't think I would knit it again, and if I had it in stat, like I would find a different pattern for the yarn. So surprisingly it gets a lot of wear. It has held up relatively well. I think because it's a fluff you can't really see any pilling. There's a little bit here I guess. Like there are bits where it's kind of bobbled, but I don't think it particularly looks any worse for wear, despite probably being worn once a week at home. So yeah, Sunday sweater by Petite knit, not my favourite, probably wouldn't knit it again, but weirdly I wear it all the time. This is incredibly soft. The melody is really, really soft, very fluffy, and very warm. Okay, we are into the summer patterns. I'm only going to try one on and I'll hold the rest up. But this is one of my favourite things I made this summer, and it was the most ridiculously easy, straightforward, whatever, sort of throwaway t-shirt almost. It knit up so quickly. It was amazing. I will make more next year. This is a Raglan t-shirt, like that's all it is. It's just got a single raglan with make ones either side. It's got narrow ribbing. I think I cast on 100 stitches. I think. The good thing with having a podcast is I can go back and watch the podcast episode that I talk about it to find out. I mean, I could just make my life easier and keep a Ravelry page, but I don't. So it is pretty cropped. That's the top of it there. And sorry, I'm wearing a black bra underneath, so it's probably showing through a little bit. I knit this in Drops Belle, which has got some viscose, and it's got a really nice drape to it actually. It's not heavy at all. It was really breathable and lightweight. I think it's viscose and linen, and this is the colourway Pink Sand, I want to say. I really love the neckline. I think it's a very, like, it's in the way that I don't like the Raglan sweaters for being a wide neck. I like them on this t-shirt because I think it's nice for summer. The best thing about this was that once I'd done this, once I'd cat split for sleeves, all I'd had to do was, I think, knit maybe like 4 rows and then do the ribbing. It was done so quickly. So I really like this. I think if I was to make it again, I think I'll make more. I keep wearing this. I've got more of this exact yarn in stash in a blue, I think. So I will make more. I think I will make a version with slightly longer sleeves. I don't dislike this length, but like I think maybe to there would be ever so slightly more wearable based on the sleeves of the t-shirts that I wear normally. But yeah, really cute. Love this. Oh, let me check the bust size of this. Interestingly, this is bang on pretty much my bust size. So this is 108 centimetres. I've only got 1 centimetre of ease, which does surprise me actually. But I think the cotton being so lightweight, it feels very, very drapey and very breezy. And it is a little bit see-through. Like you can see that I'm wearing a black bra underneath, so you obviously can see through the fabric a little bit, which shows that it's quite a sort of, what's the word? Opaque? Is that the word I'm looking for? You can see through it a little bit. But yeah, like this one a lot. We'll make more. It was a really quick knit. It was really fun, and I found I got a lot of wear over the summer, and it's worn completely fine. I may have put this in the wash once or twice. I do wash my summer knits a bit more. I mean, I don't have that many. I've got a few from last year that I won't show. So I have a couple, but I wash them pretty much as often as I would wash a t-shirt. So probably, no, maybe a bit more often. Probably maybe like 2 or 3 wears I wash summer knits, because I just find you're a bit stickier and ugh. Now I have 3 summer camisoles, but I'm not putting them on because it's freezing cold, and as I said, I realise I'm wearing a black bra, which is not convenient for showing off a strappy camisole, and I'm too lazy to change. But I will hold them up and I will show you what they are, which means I don't have the measurements for them either, I'm afraid. I think the order that they went in was I made this one first, and I love this one. This is, oh, they're so crumpled, I'm sorry. This is the Allure Cami by Caidree. It is a fully inclusive pattern. It's really, really simple. You make these like cups, and then you have I-cords, and then you knit to the bottom. And bind off, I think they all bind off with an I-cord. I don't think that was a mod, I think that was the pattern. And this one is made in Knitting for Olive Silk Mohair. And I think I've got a picture of this with me on. I'll put the picture in of me wearing this. It's beautiful. It was worn really nicely. The silk has become kind of drapey and beautiful. I knit this with 2 skeins of Knitting for Olive Silk Mohair. Sorry, not Silk Mohair. Pure Silk? Raw Silk? Pure Silk? I think it's Pure Silk. It's a little bit on the crop side, but I find that I wear a lot of like high-waisted skirts in summer, so it doesn't bother me, and I got it out of 2 skeins of yarn, so that's completely fine. It's been worn a lot, and I think it's in pretty good condition. There's a little bit of like almost bobbling, but generally it's in pretty good shape. It is a very pale sort of seafoam green, which is probably washing out a little bit in this light. It's looking a bit paler than it really is. There's a bit more pigment to it than you can see. The only thing about this is that my rolling out is atrocious. You can see it still quite strongly, even despite blocking on the cups. That one's the worst. But it's okay. I made this with my 2 hands. It's fine if it doesn't look perfect. That's okay. So that's the first one. It's got a beautiful drape. I think I want to make some more of these. I'd like to make a black one. I think a black one would be really wearable. And like this will be my go-to camisole pattern for the time being, I think, because it was fun. It went quickly. It's also fingering weight, so it doesn't use very much yarn. So after making this one, I then quickly made a second one. I cast this. You can see I'm not wearing this because I don't have an end that's either been not woven in or not trimmed. I think just not trimmed. It's been woven in. It's exactly the same thing, in a beige colour. This is with their cotton merino. It is literally exactly the same. Is that another? Yeah, I've got another end that I've not woven in. So my to-do list for this is to weave the ends in. I like this a lot. Again, it fits well. It's a good layering piece. The only problem with this is it is almost exactly my skin tone. So unless I've got like a great tan going, I think this is a bit too close to my natural colour for me to wear just as a camisole. So I wore it like under some shirts and things, but I don't get a whole lot of wear of it as, look at that drape though, it's beautiful. This is for all of cotton merino. Again, 2 skeins of this. And my final summer garment was another Caidree pattern. I think this is the home, I can't remember what it's called. It'll be down below. It is a camisole that I test knit, and it has this like I-cord binding around, I think it could be this the home. No, it's not. It has this I-cord edging, and otherwise it's pretty plain. I knit this again out of drops. I think this is drops Safran, so it's a kind of DK weight yarn. The fabric is lovely. I like the fabric a lot. The problem with this is that I knit the I-cords too tightly, and it pulls in like a kind of unappealing way. Like I just don't really like how it looks. It kind of like, I find knitting loose I-cord quite a challenge. My hands don't want to do it. My hands want to make it quite tight, and so I think I didn't pick up as many stitches as I should have picked up, and I think that is why the I-cord, yeah, it doesn't look bad, but when I wear it, it sits really high up, like here, and it throws the proportions off of it a lot. So this is probably a donation. I don't think I'm going to get more wear of this this year, and I don't think I'm going to fix it, if I'm being perfectly honest. The other problem with my camisoles this year is I moved a year ago from London to Edinburgh, and Edinburgh does not get a particularly hot summer. I did not really have any need of wearing camisoles. I wore them under shirts, and I wore them on holiday. We went to Italy and we went to Greece, and I wore them in both of those places. I did not wear them otherwise in Scotland. So if we're still in Scotland this summer, which I think we will be, I think things like this with like a t-shirt vibe are more wearable and things I will get more wear of. And I think I've got 2 camisoles. I might make a black one, but like in the silk, which would be more of a dressy thing. But otherwise, I think I should steer clear of knitting camisoles or tank tops this summer because it's not cold enough for me to wear them. Sorry, it's not hot enough for me to wear them in Scotland. We had maybe one day when it was above 30 degrees Celsius in the whole summer, so it just doesn't get warm. Okay, back to the woolly wools. Okay, we have a sweater or cardigan which never made it onto my Instagram grid, and so I don't know when it was made, but I do remember trying it on with some summer items, and so I think it must have been around about this time. It is a cardigan number 7 from Everything's Knitwear, and this is knit in Holst Cielo, and it just doesn't fit. I'm too short for here, but you can kind of see that the back, maybe that way's clear, the back of the cardigan is like sitting just below my bra strap, whereas the front is sitting waist length. And the reason is because there are no short rows in this pattern. Now I made it once before, and I made the size recommended for me, but on this one I went down a size because of the ease, and with the oversized one you can't tell if there aren't short rows, but with the short one, with the smaller one, as soon as it's more fitted, like the back is 10 centimeters too short. I wonder if I can show that, but like if I go like this, you can see the back of the cardigan and you can see my t-shirt and not my jeans. It's just too short, so it looks really out of proportion when I wear it. I love the idea of a lilac cardigan, and I have yarn to make a lilac cardigan, and I'm going to make one this year I think for spring. I think it just looks so fresh and bright. I like the lilac with my dark hair. I like it with a white t-shirt and a pair of jeans, but this is not it. And this cardigan is not size inclusive, and since then I've stopped using this pattern. A combination of it's not inclusive, so I'm going to stop using it, but also it just doesn't fit very well. I think if you knit it to the recommended ease, it fits fine, but I don't think, yeah, I think even the neckline, like, it just doesn't sit quite nicely at the back because there's no short rows. And I think a lot of the time when we don't have short rows in cardigans, we think it doesn't matter if the back is lower because that's okay, but it's not okay. It doesn't fit. The yarn is amazing, I will say. The Holst Cielo, I love it. I think it looks great. It is super soft and delightful. I bought buttons for this, and I have buttonholes. I never sewed the buttons on because I never wore it. I think I will donate this because I think this will fit a child quite nicely. It just does not fit me, and it was a bit of a dud. Okay, however, I've got another cardigan which I was basically looking to replicate this vibe. It's a really nice fabric actually, it's lovely. And again, I've never posted it on social media, so I don't know when I finished it. I think it was after summer. It was definitely this year. But an alternative to the number 7 is the Novice cardigan chunky from Petite Knit, and this is my version using drops, air and drops silk alpaca. And it's really lovely. I wear this a lot. I love the colour of it. Again, I have buttons and I've never sewn them on, and there are buttonholes ready. I've never sewn them on. I wear this a lot around the house. I think it's probably still a bit on, I probably should have sized down a little bit, and I want a black one of this, and I think I would go down a size. My problem is I don't like knitting back and forth, but I want cardigans. So then I knit these ones because they're knit on size 7mm needles, so they go quickly. Does it feel like you're doing a lot of knitting? It's over so fast. But it does make, like, the fabric is nice, but I do think a more fitted, better fitting cardigan would get a bit more wear. It's round yoke, so it doesn't have any of those, it's a bit lower at the back for sure, but it doesn't have any of those issues around the length at the bottom. And this is a really cozy size and colour. I wear this one quite a lot in the house, and I love this colour. I was completely inspired because Yenny, who is Finglish Knits on Instagram, who comes to my knit night, made a Lento, I think, out of not the air but this brushed alpaca, and I adore it. I think it looks so good, and I used almost the exact same yarn combination for this because I love it so much. And now the sun comes out. So yeah, I like it. I think it's a good pattern. I probably will make it again in the future at some point. No rush to right now, but at some point. I do have more Holst Cielo that I bought on their Black Friday sale in like a mushroom colour that I would like to make into something cozy, and this is a contender, this pattern. But seeing it on now, I'm thinking maybe not, maybe I should make a sweater instead. I think I wear my sweaters more than I wear my cardigans. Okay, that's my cardigan chat. I think I have 2 more until we get into like my designs, which have taken up basically the entire winter this year. Let me just check Instagram and see where we're at. Yeah, okay, so the next one I embellished for Christmas, and I'm going to remove the embellishment, but I've not removed the embellishment yet. So this is also kind of a no frills pattern, but again was my first attempt at sort of freewheeling because the gauge is way off. This is drops Lima and drops Kidsilk, I think. Both in the colour white, and I added this embellishment for Christmas. I put a little bit on the cuffs, it's got little beads on it, but I'm going to take it off again. I think it looks beautiful, but I wore this sweater a lot before I embellished it, and I'd like to be able to continue wearing it even throughout the rest of the year. So it is a bit oversized. Oh, I forgot to measure like my last 3 sweaters. Okay, so this is 122 centimeters across the bust, so it's definitely a bit more oversized. You can see it's pretty boxy, but I like the fit of this. It again has the issue of the wide neck with the no frills, which I hadn't yet remedied at this point, but I do like the fit of this one. It's such a lovely fabric. The alpaca is generally always very drapey, and I think something I should keep in mind is that I like pairing alpaca with mohair, especially fingering weight. This is DK weight, so it's a bit weightier, but it's lovely. It feels very cozy. It's not something I will wear, I don't think, much outside of winter because it is a heavier weight garment, and in future I would just find a different pattern because I'm pretty sure I just cast on, I think I picked like the smallest, I didn't gauge swatch I don't think, and I think I picked the smallest size cast on number from the no frills, and I just increased until it fit. And actually it probably could have gone a little bit less in the increases to make it a bit better fit, but I like it. I like this a lot with, I have quite a lot of skirts that I wear, and I like this sort of tucked in French tuck with a skirt, and it's very soft and it's nice next to skin. Like, it feels like a nice fabric next to skin. It's not itchy at all. I think if I was warm it would maybe be a bit prickly, but it just feels a bit fancy. I don't know why it feels a bit fancy. I think this does. And again, it is stayed in pretty good condition. So this is, it's a bit of bobbling. You can't really see it because it's blowing out a little bit, but there's a little bit of bobbling under the arms. But this sweater gets worn a lot, and given it gets worn so much, it has not bobbled very much. So I think my main takeaway is that the alpaca is not very bobbly, which is interesting because I think alpaca is very soft, but so far my sweaters that I've used alpaca have been the ones which have bobbled the least, and the alpaca and mohair is a combination that I personally enjoy. And yeah, I think this filled the hole of like I needed a white sweater, and I remember, I think it was too hot. I knit this to wear it somewhere, and it was roasting. Maybe it was even Greece. I'm not even kidding. That's ridiculous because it was like 40 degrees in Greece. And I would knit it in the heat of summer thinking I just need a white sweater. Like, it would just, like in the evenings, it'd be perfect. And it did not fit the bill at all because it was way too warm for what I wanted it for. And I'm pretty sure I wore it around for like a week before we went to Greece, and I was like, no, like, you're an idiot. You can't wear this around. And I didn't need it. It was roasting in Greece. But I think I really identified that I needed a white sweater in my wardrobe, and this has fit the bill so far. I think I'll make some more neutrals in the future, but for now I'll just gonna, at some point I'll take off this embellishment probably after New Year and just cut it. It's all it's pretty messily done inside. It's all just done with threads, so I'll just, and then it'll be ready to wear again, back as a normal wardrobe staple. Again, I'm gonna see if I can do something with this light because it's suddenly gotten very bright. My next sweater was my very first design this year. 2022 was the year that I started designing knitting patterns and publishing them, and I released, I guess, 3 patterns, and there are 2 more in the works, for one in January and one I think at the beginning of March. But this is my very first one. I started knitting this in the summer and it got released at the end of September, and it was a whirlwind. It was such an exciting experience to knit this. I worked with test editors for the first time and we got professional pictures taken. And it was also just a hugely successful pattern launch. It went really, really well, like above and beyond what I would ever have expected any of my patterns to sell. So that's really exciting, and now I get to see them crop up all over Instagram, and every once in a while I check on Ravelry, and it's really nice. So this is a Raglan sweater, and it's got this all over dip stitch pattern. And I've knit this one in Filcolana, Anina. Yeah, Filcolana, Anina and Drops Kidsilk Mohair. And I think it's the Marzipan Filcolana, and I think the Drops Kidsilk Mohair is light beige. And this is the 107 centimeter size bust, so it is pretty much bang on my bust size, but it is a rib, so you can kind of see the word over my bust. It does sort of like stretch out a little bit, which I love. There's not a single thing I would change about this sweater, and I think that's mostly like I learned so much making it, and it was such an interesting experience, and it really kicked off like a whole new thing for me, which was designing patterns. So not a single thing I would change. I love it. I would quite like a second version in a different colour, and that's because I don't wear the sweater, and the reason I don't wear it is because I'm so precious about it. I just love the sweater. It means so much to me. Oh, I should show the sleeves off actually. It's got this really nice like puffy sort of statement sleeve. I just feel really precious about this. This sweater just sort of signified or signalled like a big change and a big thing and a big step forward for me. And I think of it so fondly that I feel like I need to wear this sweater for only very special occasions, and I just don't have very special occasions to wear it to, which maybe that's ridiculous, I'm not sure. But yeah, I don't really wear it. So I wore it for the photos, and I think I look at it sometimes and I squidge it and I squeeze it and I like it, but I don't really wear it, and I'm fine with that. Like, that's okay. The sweater is never going anywhere. It will stay in my possession for as long as I think I have hand-knit sweaters. I might in future not keep all my samples, but this one I think I will always keep. Maybe I should work with the sample knitter and make up a second version because it's beautiful, and I've now seen so many lovely versions crop up on Instagram that I would love to have one of those versions. One of my testers, Hayley, she knit one in a sage green, and I think it looks beautiful. So, or maybe like a ruby red, I'm not sure. So maybe I'll make another one. I don't think I'll make another one. I think I would go back now and maybe want to just make changes to the pattern, which I'm not going to do. I don't want to like ruin the experience. So I think maybe sometime next year, towards like next winter, I might work with a sample knitter and have another one of these knit up in a different colour so that I would wear it more often. But for now, this is just sort of more like a piece of memorabilia or like a souvenir than it is a sweater that I wear a lot, and that is completely okay with me. That's fine, I don't mind. So yeah, it's a Cargill sweater, 107cm bust size in Filcolana, Anina and dropped kits of Mohair, and the very first ever creabeapodcast design. First of many, but the very first one, and something that I'm very proud of. I named it after my grandmother, so it's also got some like, it gets me in the feels when I wear it because I just think, oh, it's so special. Okay, we're getting there. We only have a few more left. The pile of done is much bigger than the pile of not done. So my next sweater is one of my favourites, and this is the Lento sweater. It's a pattern by Laine magazine, and the magic about the sweater is the gauge. So this sweater is 120cm. It is a little bit boxier, a bit roomier than some of my other sweaters. It feels like a cloud, and it is a really good transitional piece. I haven't worn this a huge amount in winter, and that is because I don't find it super warm, but I wore it so much in late summer and autumn, and I am looking forward to making more of these in spring. I will be running a make along with Amy Palco of the Meaningful Stitch. Is that right? Meaningful Stitch. That doesn't sound right, but I'm sure that's it. Amy is another Edinburgh based knitter who also has an amazing podcast, and I see each other at Knit Night every week. So we are going to run a Lento cal, and I've got a few planned. I have the yarn for like 6. I really want to make one in a variegated yarn, and I really want to make one in a striped yarn. It is a top-down raglan. Again, it's got the thing that I don't love about raglans, but I don't seem to mind it so much on this one, which is it's not quite as gapey, and this one feels a bit more sweatshirty, so it doesn't, I don't know why it doesn't bother me, but it doesn't bother me. The magic of this sweater is the gauge. The gauge of this is 15 stitches per 10 centimeters, meaning that you use a DK weight yarn. I used fingering and mohair, but it knits up incredibly quickly because the gauge is, I think normally you would knit like 21 stitches for this gauge, and it's 15, so it flies by, it goes so quickly, and it makes for this very lightweight, really airy sweater. I used 2 yarns for this. The first one is from, oh my goodness, Gullet Farm. It's on the tip of my tongue there. So I went to Unravel, which is a yarn festival down south, and I went there in February, and I picked up this single skein of forest green yarn from Telling Yarns, who are a British based hand dyer, and they had worked with Gullet Farm to produce a range of hand dyed colours of their like small scale farm yarn, and this was one of them, and there was one skein and I fell in love with this colour. I realise now that I've got a few more things in this colour, but it's this kind of like, It's kind of between like a sage, it's kind of like a washed out forest green, and I just loved it. I think it's such an interesting colour, and I fell in love with it there, and I needed the skein. And then I kept going back around and I was like, are you sure you don't have any more? Because I wanted a sweater's quantity. She's like, I only have this one. And I thought, okay, that's fine. I'm going to just take the one and that's okay. And I'll make a hat or something. So I came home and it sat in my stash for a while. I didn't know this up until maybe 6 months later. And then I got a message from Stephanie, who runs Gullet Farm. Now she'd sent me some yarn to make a shawl. I'm not going to show it because I'm only going to show garments, but we'd had a bit of a chat before. And so she contacted me and was like, hey, can you send me your address? And I was like, okay. And maybe 3 or 4 days later, in the post showed up the second skein of the green yarn. And so I had 800 metres and half of it was gifted, so the 400 metres was gifted. But this came straight to me, and at that point I was like, this is amazing, I have 800 metres, I could do something with this, but what do I do? And there are a couple of sweaters like the Ranunculus and the Love Note which use up little yarn, and I had those maybe in mind. And then I came across the Lento because Jodie from the Grocery Girls was knitting a Lento, and I think I was literally scrolling through Ravelry to find a pattern, and she was just popped up saying she was making this pattern, and I was like, this is meant to be, this is exactly what I'm looking for. I didn't really want anything with lace. I wanted something simple and really wearable that would use up all of my yarn. So this sweater in my size, which is 120 centimetre bust, used up less than 800 metres of yarn. It is a little bit cropped. It goes to like just below my jeans, but not super cropped. And I used it held together with a strand of Filcolana Tilia in the colourway Reseda, which is a little bit, like the base was a bit more blue and this is a bit more green. And it's lovely. I'm putting it on right now and it just feels so nice. Maybe I'll keep this on after I finish knitting, after I finish recording for the rest of the day, because it's not too cold outside. I'm looking forward to making more of these. I want to make a striped one, and I really want to make, I've got 2 sets of hand-dyed yarn. That's the thing, hand-dyed yarn can be expensive because it's so much work involved, and like it's validly expensive, but it can sometimes be tricky to buy a sweater's quantity of hand-dyed yarn. And so the Lento, only using 2 skeins for my size, means that I could buy 2 skeins of hand-dyed yarn, hold it with a commercial mohair, and have like an all-over sweater of hand-dyed yarn for a reasonable, something that's within my budget. So that made it a very appealing sweater to me, and I'm looking forward to the knit along. We're going to do it in December, and then there was all the gift knitting and all these things going on, but I think the plan is to do it in January, although I've not seen Amy since knit night before Christmas, so we probably should put our heads together and put a bit of a plan in place. But we've spoken to some local dyers and we're hoping to offer some prizes from Edinburgh, which should be lovely. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I've not done a make along in a while. Yeah, since like last winter. So it'll be exciting to run one again. And putting the sweater on is making me excited to make more of them. It's just like, this would also be a really good entry to Young Folk Knits bougie sweatshirt cal, because it's a bougie sweatshirt and it's so cozy. And it would be really, really good for if you live somewhere that's maybe not super cold, or if you get like good transitional springs and autumns, this would be perfect for that, because it is just a really, really nice layering piece. Okay, I'm going to do the next 3 all together because they're the same pattern. I knit them at slightly different times, but they're the same pattern, and they make sense to talk about all at once. So this is my Kerr sweater, which is the second pattern I released this year, and it is a drop shoulder colourwork design. Ugh. Now this is my original sample. This is 110 centimetre bust, and it is, yeah, like this colour design. So it has this drop shoulder, and then it has a colourwork motif across the arms, and across the bust, and across the other arm, and so the motif kind of runs across the bust. I love this Kerr. It was it was a challenging knit. It was really fun. I made a lot of versions of this, as you'll see. It was a really nice test knit. I loved the pictures we took for these. They were so much fun. So yeah, lots of good memories associated with the sweater, and I think this is one of my favourite samples. I mean, I've got 3 versions of this sweater, so I love them all, but I like this one. It is knit with Woolyknit. It is I think I might have been gifted this one when we had the code along. I think the oatmeal was one of the ones that was gifted. So yes, the colourway oatmeal, and then this is cinnamon, which is one of my favourite colours of their colours, and it's just really nice. It's neutral, but it's something special, but it's still really easy to wear. And this, what I love about my 3 versions of the Kerr is that all of them are using quite different yarns and they all feel very different. So this one is a lot more structured. The fabric is very solid. Not solid, but like it feels very... This is something that I don't tend to wear a lot indoors, but if I'm going for like a walk outside, this is something I want to put on because it'll keep me nice and warm. And it feels like a more structured piece of knitting, whereas the other 2 are much more like softer and airier and drapey. This feels like a heavier outside piece. It's been worn a reasonable amount and it has kept up pretty well. I've got hair in all of them. There's no massive pilling anywhere really. It's pretty good. I have knit, one of the first sweaters I knit was a Woolyknit, and I think I've debobbled it maybe once or twice, but I find that it just softens with wear. So I think that's the thing with 100% like rustic wool. It doesn't really bobble, it's pretty soft. It's not very soft, it doesn't really bobble very much, and so I tend to find that it wears the best. So yeah, this is sample 1, 110cm bust. I love it, I really love it. Yeah, I want to wear this now. I want to go on a walk somewhere so that I can justify wearing this sweater right now. Okay, but I love the Kerr so much, I made 3. So here's number 1. And here's number 2. Now number 2 is also 110cm bust, but what's interesting is that this is a much, much softer fabric. And so it feels like a much drapier version. So this is the second version of the pattern, which has a narrower colourwork band. So it's kind of just got one of these motifs, and it is, yeah, it's narrower. This was because I remember at the time having a big think about proportions and how somebody shorter than me would struggle to wear the deeper one because it would look like it was taking up a larger portion of their torso. And so this was kind of a second option. But actually it's been really popular. I like a lot of people since it's been released. It got released in November. I've seen a lot of them pop up actually. This is also a beautiful yarn. This is the first time I used this yarn. It is Rerum Natura Gilead. No, it's not. It's Rerum Natura Ulysse, which is their, I think, sport weight, they call it. And it is, what is it? Yeah, it's Rerum Natura in the colours Cedar and Beige. And it's so, so soft. It was lovely to work with. It's a really, really good colourwork yarn. It stretches quite a bit. So what I found with my Woolyknit is that some testers found this too, because it's so structured, it definitely showed up the worst of my tension problems. So my arms, the arms for example, I probably should have gone up another quarter needle size, and so I felt I had to block the arms quite aggressively to get them where I wanted to get them. That didn't happen because the yarn is so soft and so stretchy that I found that even my floats held a lot of, had a lot of give in them, which was really nice. This one is a lot more relaxed feeling. I like it a lot. It's a crop length as well. It feels very like trendy and like cool. I wear this quite a lot. It's very soft. And yeah, it's also 110cm bust, but just the other one, because it's so structured, feels quite fitted, whereas this one feels much looser. And I think it's purely because of the yarn type. So the Kerr, all 3 versions of the Kerr were a really interesting lesson for me in types of yarn. I have a sweater's quantity still of this yarn. I ordered the wrong colour to start with, or ordered a different colour, and when it arrived it wasn't the colour I wanted it to be. So I have a sweater's quantity at some point to use up. I think it would make a very good gift knit because it's 100% I think merino, but it is incredibly soft. It's held up pretty well. It's got a little bit of bubbling, but generally none, and I think with very soft wools, I kind of expect them to bubble, and I'm okay with it because they're very soft, like that's what they're going to do. I guess I want to make sure that they're soft, that I can still debubble them and they still look fresh. I hate when you debubble them and they still look messy or they still look a bit scruffy, but provided that you can still fix them, it's all good with me. So that is version 2, and version 3 is coming. Version 3 was a bit of a disaster, but also not a disaster, and might be my most worn version. So version 3 has got the long colour work again. Now for this one I went up a size, however my gauge was off, and so it ended up being significantly more oversized than it was meant to be. So it was meant to be 120 centimetres, which would just be one size up, and it ended up being about 126. So it is very, very boxy, and it just wasn't quite the look I was going for. It feels more like I'm wearing my dad's jumper than I'm cool and wear this cool oversized hip cool jumper, which is what I wanted. But the yarn I used was Rauwerk, which was an absolute delight to work with. This is the colour, I think, Obsidian, and this is maybe just one of their naturals. I can't actually remember what this colour was called, but it was stunning. It is like the perfect balance, I think, between the British wool and the Rerum Natura. It's 100% wool. It's got a lot of structure to it, but it's soft. It is really, really soft, and I wear this a lot in the house. I considered having this re-knit to the size I want it to be, and wearing it now, I think I maybe should. I have got a couple of tests. I've never used a sample knitter, but I've got some lined up for January for another design, and maybe I should look at getting this re-knit in the right colours. My mum also really wants one. It was named after my mum, the sweater, so she really wants a version, and I think she deserves a version because it's named after her. But after doing this sweater 3 times, I don't have it in me to knit it the 4th time, which is fine. Like, I knit the same sweater 3 times this year. I think it's okay to not do that again. I'm not a machine. But yeah, I didn't ever think about what to do with this, because I do wear it a lot around the house, but I think I would wear it a size down. And also I really love this yarn, and so the thought of not using this yarn up, like the thought of not using this properly makes me a bit sad. So I think I would rather get this changed and go down a size. It was silly because I had gauge swatched the first 2, and by this point I was like, oh, I know what, like, I've used the needle size, I don't need to gauge swatch, I'll just go ahead. And then I measured by knitting as I went, but it stretched a lot with washing, and so if I had just knit the 110 centimetre size, the same as the other 2, and it had stretched out to 116 centimetres, it would be absolutely perfect. But it's just the 126, it's just a bit too big, and like the arms are just a bit too big, and so it just kind of looks a bit, it doesn't really fit super nicely over here as much. I think it would just look better down a size. So I need to do some thinking about this one, decide what's coming. But I do love this yarn combination, and I do really like the light with the dark background. Okay, 4 left. We're almost there. Okay, this is my first fingering weight sweater ever. So this is the Daily Pullover, which is a pattern by Paula Pereira for Pearl Soho, and it uses fingering weight yarn. I think the traditional one uses linen quill, and I used Kinross 4-ply, which is an incredibly soft Scottish yarn. So the yarn is amazing. This took me so long to knit, by the way. I started it in the summer when we were flying to Italy, and I finished it, I think, in November. Maybe October, but I think November, and it just took me forever to knit because it's fingering weight, and this softens up so, oh my god, it's so soft. It feels like cashmere. It softens up so much with washing, but it doesn't feel like that when you're knitting it, and so it's kind of hard when you're knitting it to get excited about the end sweater because it doesn't feel the same way when you're knitting it, and that's how this feels. Sorry, I think that she knows. I think there are a couple of things with this. First thing is I don't really wear a V-neck, and it is a kind of, like, I think I would wear it if it was a deeper V. I wouldn't wear the t-shirt underneath. I think I'd wear it if it was deeper, but I think this middle length V-neck is not something I really reach for, and so I struggle. I mean, I put it on now and I think, God, I should be wearing this more, it's so soft. But I don't really reach for it. So I think that's the main problem. That's the only problem, that I don't wear it. So, oh, it's gone right in my nose. If I were to knit this again, I would just not use this pattern. The pattern was fine, there was nothing wrong with it. It's just not really my style, and I probably should have realised that. I think that's my realisation, is I don't really wear V-necks. That's quite evident, unless it's quite a deep V. So I think if I was really tempted by a V-neck in future, I would have to reconsider if that was a good idea or not. So I could give this to my mum, and I think she would love it, and I think she'd wear it a lot. But the thought of parting with this makes me really sad because it's so soft. It's not very expensive wool. I think it used 5 skeins exactly of the Kinross 4-ply, which is maybe £7, maybe £8 for 50 grams. So I think it's not crazy expensive, maybe £40 for the sweater. I forgot to check the bust size again. I'm pretty sure it's the 42 inches, which I can't remember what that is in centimetres. Interestingly, the pattern doesn't tell you, the pattern doesn't size them by numbers, or like, it's not like small, medium, large, or like size 1, 2, 3, it's just the size, the bust size. Ooh. Yeah, I think I made the 45 inches, which is 114, but that's definitely, it's not got quite as much ease as I thought I would have, so potentially mine's not quite on gauge. It's still beautifully drapey in this fabric. Oh, it's so good. It's been worn a little bit, and it so far seems to have worn pretty well. This is the most, it's just luxury. I've cast on something else in this yarn. I've got a top-down raglan cast on, and it's in grey, and it's got a round neck. It's the Cozy Classic Light by Jessie Maid, and I am excited to finish that. I think I will wear it so much, but I think I should probably part ways with this one and probably give it to my mum and see how she gets on with it. If she doesn't want it, I'll keep it and I'll make myself wear it more, but I think it will get worn more by someone who is very excited about it, which I think is probably my mum. Oh, she's gonna get a message after this with like, hey, I have these 10 sweaters, do you want any of them? Okay, there's dust flying everywhere now. This is we're almost there, I've got 2 more left after this. This I knew I needed in my wardrobe for such a long time, it took me so long to knit one, and then I finally made it and made a black sweater, and it's probably, since I finished it, like I finished it late in the year, so it's probably not my most worn sweater of the year, but it is my most worn sweater since finishing it. It's such a staple, it gets so much wear in my wardrobe, it fits with everything I have, and I really love it. Something that I like about it a lot are the neck is much better fitting for me than others. So with like the no frills and with the Lento, the neck's a bit wider. This is a folded neckband and it's much closer to my neck, which is a fit I prefer. And otherwise I love it. It is 116 centimetres at the chest, at the bust, so it's a nice roomy size, but the sleeves are also quite nicely fitted, which I love, because it still makes it feel like quite a fancy sweater. That being said, this sweater has not worn well. When I washed it, I noticed that the mohair had really gone fluffy, like fluffy. A lot of the time the mohair adds like a halo, but it felt like a bit of a teddy bear when I'd finished. And it has pilled so much, I can literally just, I don't think it'll show in the black, but I can just pull off like whole big bits of sort of clumps of yarn, which is not great. It's on both sides, and so I think it needs a bit of TLC. Like I say, it does get worn a lot, so it's not a massive surprise that it's pilled, but it is a bit surprising that I've worn it. I mean, I finished it in the last 3 months and it's already pilling pretty badly. So I think it's also interesting because I used dropped Kidsilk mohair and I used drops Flora, which is 100% wool. So they should, like, I would have expected that to be quite a non-pill option, but it is pilling quite badly. So I need to give it some TLC and to give it a bit of a shave. It was not going anywhere, I love it. It's going to stay in my wardrobe. I will 100% make more Semper sweaters the next time I'm looking for a top-down raglan. I have some like caramel coloured yarn that I think would make a very good version of it, and it's just a complete staple. It also doesn't feel like something it feels like a bit of like a shop bought knit, which I quite like. I think some people are of the opinion that if you could buy it in a shop, why would you waste your time knitting it? But I like it. The sleeves are a little on the shorter side actually. They've definitely shrunk with wear. I think it's probably felted a little bit, and so I do wonder if I should debobble. The problem is if I debobble it, oh look at this, I'm just pulling off like clumps of, if I reblock it, then it means I can't wear it for the time it takes for it to dry. And I wear this 4 times a week, so I have to find something else to put in my wardrobe. So maybe just a bit of a shave down for now, and when I've got some clear blocking mats, maybe if I were away for a weekend, I can not take the sweater and I can leave it blocking at home whilst we're away. But love the sweater, total winner for me, probably my favourite raglan at the moment. Yeah, 10 out of 10, will make again, probably with a different yarn combination, but I would recommend it, and I really love the neckline. I know when the first pattern was first released there were a few issues. It was so unfortunate because Sophie, I know, works with a tech editor and work with test knitters, and so with those two things you expect all the mistakes to be caught, because I don't know, 30 people test knit it and then somebody who you pay goes through it line by line to check it all, and I think there were a few hiccups. So I definitely found myself a little bit stuck at the beginning, but since then updates have been sent out for the pattern, so it's now completely resolved. And if you've done a raglan sweater before, the issues weren't, like, it was nothing you couldn't just skim over, because all I really needed were stitch counts, right? Like, I just really needed the starting stitch count, and then I think I'm not even sure if I knitted to exact size. I think I just knitted till it fit, which is what I always do with raglans anyway. So 2 more left, and they're both my own designs. So one of my all-time favourites for the year, it has to be my Dorney sweater. This is, as I said, my own design. It's currently in testing and it's due for release at the end of January, and it is an all-over cable knit sweater. This is the 106cm bust, so it is a little bit shy on ease at the bust, a bit of negative ease. And interestingly, this is a top down. It feels like the other end, we came all the way from the Billy sweater. This is the opposite. It is a top down, it is a top down raglan. Yeah, it's a top down raglan, and it's the same negative ease, and I love the fit of it. I don't have any of the fit issues I have with the Billy, and I wear this a lot, so maybe the fit is not the problem with the Billy sweater, I'm not sure. Let me show it off a little bit. It has got, it's got these really, I'm really tooting my own horn here because I designed it, but I love this sweater. It has got these like symmetrical cables, which are kind of like a horseshoe cable, but they're separated by this knit column. It's got quite a deep chunky neck, which I've got some elastic in, and then it's got a big one that goes down the sleeve, and then the sleeves are both quite fitted, and it's got this sort of rib panel under the sleeve and under the arms. I knit this out of Filcolana Peruvian Highland wool and Sandnes Garn's Tinsilk Mohair. The Filcolana is in the colour Dijon, and the Tinsilk Mohair is in the colour burnt sugar, and I bought these separately, but I would be a bit nervous to add them up because I think it's a very expensive project. I think the 2 yarns separately were not massively expensive, but I think when I had them double it did become quite pricey, and so I'm just not thinking about it, to be honest. I think the colour is exceptional. I think this is almost like a the colour that the sugar turns before it turns into caramel, like that just pre-caramel colour is what this is, and I just think it's lovely. I really like it. I'm making a second version of this one in the size up, mostly because I'm just intrigued to see what it looks like with a bit more ease on it, so I will find out. I split her sleeves on it yesterday, so we'll see how that goes. But I just adore the sweater. I think the fit of it over the raglan is really nice. I love the way the neck fits. And it's quite thick. It's quite a chunky, obviously that's a chunky gauge. It's like an Aran weight gauge. So this is a real cozy outdoor sweater, or like if it's really cold in the flat and I need to warm up, this is the sweater I'll put on. It's had a reasonable amount of wear. I've only finished it maybe 6 weeks ago. But it seems to be wearing pretty well. Oh, look at that halo in the sun. No big bobbling. I would expect it to bobble. I find cables quite hard to debobble, but because the bits that I expect to bobble are under the arm and ribbing, I think that should debobble pretty easily. So yeah, this is my Dorney. I'm really proud of it. I'm very excited. I'm always very excited about the next design. That's kind of how my brain operates. But this one, yeah, is due for some amazing colours again. Someone's knitting a navy version. There's like a bright green version, and every time I see it I'm like, oh, I'm excited. So that'll be coming out I think on the 27th of January, the last Friday of January. And I'm really excited for it. And that'll be the 3rd design. And yeah, this will probably be my first, I expect my first finished object of 2023 will be my second Dorney, which is like an oatmeal off-white colour. 1 more left. So I think it's fitting that I started 2022 with the most complex thing I'd ever knit, and I'm finishing 2022 with the most complex thing I've ever knit. And this one I designed myself. This is a Rauwerk sweater. It has just gone into testing, so it started testing like a week ago, and it is a top down drop shoulder zip sweater with an all over fisherman's rib texture. the sun is really doing me dirty now, but maybe you can see it here a little bit. If I stand in the sun you can't really tell it's there. But it's this very, very squishy texture. It's got this amazing, I mean, can you believe it? I sort of zip into something. It's got this cool, I don't know if you can see it, but the sun's going to destroy me again. It's got a facing, so the zip's completely invisible, and this like folded collar, and it was just, I was just so proud of my brain for working this out. I really, really was. It was a real feat of ability and a real stretch, I think, for me. So I'm really, really proud of it. Yeah, I'm just really excited. So it's really, really cozy. This version is knit up in a yarn that was gifted to me. So this is knit in Kent DK by Bare Naked Wools. It is beautifully soft. This is the colourway Kelp, and I've worn it every single day since I finished it, and it's starting to pill a little bit, I will say. I think this sleeve is probably the worst, but what I'm noticing is that the pills are coming off really easily, which is a good sign. I expected yarn this soft to pill. It was earlier than I expected it to go. See a little bit here? It was a little bit earlier than I expected, but I am confident that it will debubble well. And other than that, I can't really say how it lasted over time. I feel a bit mixed about the brown, because brown isn't a colour I normally go for, but I do really like the look of it. I think it's something different. I don't have anything else as colour in my wardrobe, and I can see it really getting use. I have 2 more versions coming. I think this is why I'm going to work with the sample knitter. So the sample knitter is going to knit one in like a tomato red, and I'm going to make one in like an off-white. And it is just, I love it. I love it. I really do. I feel like I've like closed off the year on a real high. I love that this is the last sweater I've knit this year, because it was just, it feels like a bit of a triumph, to be honest. And it feels like a real sign of where I've come as a knitter in the last year. It feels like a real sign of where my designing is coming in the past few months, and it feels like a really good sort of platform to jump off of into 2023. So yeah, probably between this and my Dorney, I mean, this is what I say, my last 2 knits are always my favourites, but between this and my Dorney, these are probably my 2 favourite knits of the year. So with all that, what have I learned about myself and about my knitting? I'm surprised filming this how many of them I don't wear, especially some of the ones I finished at the start of last year. Everything I've knit in the past 6 months I seem to love, which is exciting. It's a good sign. I'll be intrigued to see if I feel that way about it in 6 months' time. Is it a cycle where I only like the things I finished more recently, or is it that I've started to learn more what I like and what I appreciate, and I've started knitting things I need in my wardrobe and that I have space for? I definitely have to do a bit of rehoming, I think. Maybe I'll pop onto a Ko-fi or something and share in the future in case anyone wants to purchase one, or pop on something like Vinted or eBay, just to cover the cost of the yarn probably. Some I will re-gift to probably my mum and see if she wants them, and some I think I will donate to a charity shop close to us. I need to go through my clothes anyway and do a bit of an annual clear out of what I have, and I could pop a few of those which are nothing wrong with them but maybe not my style into a charity box. I have learned that I need to maybe try knitting with some alpaca more, because apparently I really like my garments which have alpaca and mohair, which is interesting, and I really do love a woolly wool. I also need to be considerate about Scottish weather, and if we're going to continue living here in Scotland for the next little while, probably shouldn't be knitting any more camisoles in the near future because I just don't wear them. So I hope you've enjoyed. I feel like it's been a very whistle-stop tour. I feel like it's probably been a very long video, so I hope you enjoyed everything. If you have any questions, you can drop me a message down below, or you can drop me a message on Instagram or an email. I'm happy to answer all of those. I don't have Ravelry pages, unfortunately, for most of these. I will put the pattern name and the yarn I used down below, and if you've got any specific questions, feel free to drop me a message and I will do my best to answer them. I'm impressed at how much I still remember about some of my older knits, so that's a sign maybe that I will be able to help if you have questions. And now I've got the fun job of putting all these away. I store them all in our wardrobe. We have like a very high shelf on the wardrobe, so the whole wardrobe and then a high shelf, and that's where I store my knitwear, and that is where all of these are going to go back to. But I think I will leave some out. I'll message my mum and see if she wants them. This has been my 2023 wrap up. 22 knitted sweaters and cardigans 4 summer tops, an endless number of hats, scarves, gloves, mittens and accessories, and a lot of knitting enthusiasm and real excitement for what 2023 has to offer. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did, and I'll see you in a few weeks.